Listen, those creatures are coming in!
You do this a lot, don't you? Danger like this. It's one thing after another with you, isn't it?
I don't go looking for trouble.
But it finds you, somehow. Every time.
That's true enough.
Horror of Glam Rock.
Welcome everybody to the continuation of the 8th Doctor and Lucy Miller adventures, and then after the quite of a wait when we did Blood of the Daleks, Horror of Glam Rock didn't really came. But here I'm going to be reviewing Horror of Glam Rock, and the 8th Doctor and Lucy Miller adventures will always be featured on every Friday until to the death, and then maybe Dark Eyes might be a bit of a wait because Dark Eyes is quite expensive. It is like I think about 30 quid, 40 quid, so that will probably have to wait a while. But we are continuing every week to Horror Glam Rock all the way to the death. So if you want to skip to onto the storyline and my thoughts and review on the story, please skip to this timer down below. So firstly, I'll just be showing the front cover and what I was expecting from the front cover and what sort of story it would be. As we can see, we just have two of the characters on the story called Trissa and Tommy Tomorrow, and one of them does play a very key part of this story. And as you can see, you might see the monster in the background as well. Maybe I have to use the zoom in technique, but the monster is called The Only Ones right by here. Now, my first impressions of the front cover, I thought it was going to be a very dark and gothic story, since dark purple is a very gothic colour and a very dark colour, but I was completely wrong. It's not a dark, well, I would say it's a bit, dark in its own way, with people getting savaged to death, but it's nothing like too serious, I would say. Now, Horror Glam Rock was written by Paul Marks, who's said to be a very comedic writer, and I'll get to him just in a sec, I will. And this features Bernard Cribbins, Eunice Stubbs, Clara Buckfield, and Stephen Gates. So here we have the side, it's the third release for the 8th Doctor Adventures. So we have the back. Now the blurb doesn't really say anything about the story, I'll get to that in a sec. The cosmos is a lonely place, devoid of life, just a sad human race on a little rock, choking ourselves to death with a green and poison and hatred, and out there, the only ones. And one of the characters actually says that quote. I think it must have been their favourite quote of the story, that's why they put it in as the blurb. So the cast, we have the Doctor, Lucy Miller, Arnold Corns, Flo, Tommy and Trista Tomorrow, Pat, and the Headhunter, who plays a very significant part throughout the 8th Doctor and Lucy Miller adventures. I'm not sure whether the finale is with the Headhunter, but I'm probably going to get to that very soon, and I'm really excited about the Headhunter's storyline and the plot throughout the entire series. And of course the monsters, which are called The Only Ones, and it's 60 minutes through, and that is including special features, which is 15 minutes tallied up. So here we have the innards of it. As we can see, we have the nice 1970s spiral effect right there. The old classic spiral from John Pertwee's era. The booklet with the cast which played into this story, and we have a very nice concept art of Horror of Glam Rock, all the main characters which were featured in this story, and that's that song which really is another key resemblance of the story. And we have Immortal Beloved, which is the next part of, well, that'll be reviewed next Friday, that will as well, and I have not got that yet, but I have ordered it, of course. Now, with the storyline of the story, I wouldn't say it's anything, overly loud and a serious story like Blood of the Daleks, of course. That was a very strong and serious story. And this is where a bit of fresh air comes, and it just calms down a little bit. It doesn't go too serious, and I think they did a good approach to that. So I'm glad they calmed down a little bit. Overly, it would have been a very loud storyline throughout the Series 1, and that would have been quite repetitive, but I think they did a good approach and made the storyline a bit more calmer. Now the Doctor and Lucy go out the TARDIS, and they immediately see a dead body completely savaged to death by something, which you will find out who in the story if you listen to it, and he's completely torn to pieces, he is, and they need to find out what has happened to him, and they do find out what it was very quickly, since it's a very fast-paced story, because these stories are a lot like the new series. They're about 45 to 50 minutes long. They have no parts, not like the monthly range, nothing like that. They're all 45 minutes long, and that might help if there's new series fans out there, because these audios work like the new series a lot, and that might help people get into the audios. So far, the characterization was built up really good to show all the characters and their role. Tommy and Trista Tomorrow, and my first thoughts about Tommy Tomorrow, that he was kind of a strange character. I thought something was up with him quite through the story. And I was not sure about his particular role at first, because I didn't know what really. I found him quite pointless at the start, and I didn't know really what he was doing. But after that, he did have a very significant role, and a very important role for that story. And Paul Marg's written that fantastically. Even though Paul Margs, he's a very comedic writer, and this story does have comedy in it. Paul Margs loves his comedy, and I have got some of his books as well, and Paul Margs gets a bit of hate for that, and I think this story has very mixed reviews. I've heard people that love it, people find it okay, and people who say avoid at all cost. And I don't mind Paul Margs as a writer, and he likes his comedy, and I like his comedy. I think his comedy's good, and he's written that very good. Now, already in this story, I also see a connection with Doctor and Lucy in this story, and already they are actually talking a lot more in this story. Well, a bit of a positive sign now, and that's great, that is, because in Blood of the Daleks, they didn't really like each other. They weren't really the best of friends in that story, and they weren't really teams in that story. But already, Lucy Miller talks to the Doctor, which is without ease, and I think it's brilliant that they already connected very well. And Lucy said, "I'm glad I'm with you," and that was a bang right by there. Already there's a connection going, and that's going to stay throughout the whole series, and they're a fantastic team, and they were, so I'm glad that happened. Now, my overall concern about the story is just the soundtrack, just the music. I just find it very irritating, I do. Just a bit of a headachy soundtrack. Maybe I don't like guitars or 1970 guitar music, but I just found it very annoying, and it contaminated the story a little bit. That's my only concern with the story. So if I would rate Horror of Glam Rock, I would probably rate this story as a 7 out of 10 actually. I was a bit skeptical about this story. I didn't know what was really going to happen in it, or what anything fantastic would happen in it, but I thought it was actually a really good story, this one is, and I'll definitely recommend it. Well, I'll recommend this one definitely if you're getting all the 8th Doctor stories, being my guest. I would get them in order if you don't have any of them, still have a nice flow of the storyline. And yeah, it's a good ending, it is, to this story. It's nothing fantastic, but it's still a really good story, and Horror Glam Rock, I found it good. So 7 out of 10 to Horror Glam Rock. I really enjoyed this story. So next up we have Immortal Beloved, and apparently this is a really good story, because on Amazon it had a lot of 5 stars on it, so I'm going to be very excited to listen to Immortal Beloved. I haven't read the blurb yet, but I would definitely read that because it was on the script of the booklet on Horror Glam Rock. So see you next Friday for the next part, which is Immortal Beloved. So have a fantastic day, everybody.